Facts Intrigue presents the ghost ship, Octavius, frozen in time. The open sea, a place of wonder, mystery, and sometimes terror. For centuries, sailors have told tales of ships that vanish without a trace, only to reappear, drifting aimlessly across the ocean. One such story has haunted mariners for generations. The tale of the Octavius, a ghost ship frozen in time, its crew lost to the icy waters of the Arctic. Welcome to Facts Intrigue. Today we embark on a chilling voyage to uncover the truth behind the legend of the Octavius. But before we set sail, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss a journey into the unexplained. Now, let's dive into the eerie waters of the Octavius. Throughout history, the oceans have been vast and mysterious, inspiring stories of ships that vanish without a trace, only to reappear years later, abandoned with no signs of life. The phenomenon of ghost ships has captured the imagination of sailors for centuries. Vessels adrift, their crews missing or dead, often found in conditions as eerie as they are tragic. From the Mary Celeste, which was discovered abandoned in 1872, with its cargo intact but its crew vanished, to the Flying Dutchman, a legendary ghost ship said to sail forever, these vessels are often seen as omens of misfortune. The Octavius, however, stands out among the tales of ghost ships, not just for the fate of its crew, but for the haunting circumstances in which it was discovered. The year was 1775, when the whaling ship Herald encountered a ghostly sight off the coast of Greenland. Floating silently through the icy waters was the Octavius, its sails torn, the masts cracked, but still eerily intact. The captain of the Herald ordered a boarding party to investigate, not knowing they were about to step aboard one of the most terrifying ghost ships in history. As the crew of the Herald boarded the derelict vessel, they were greeted by an unsettling scene. The ship was eerily silent, save for the creaking of wood and the occasional whisper of wind through the tattered sails. Inside the captain's cabin, they found something even more horrifying. The captain of the Octavius, seated at his desk, frozen to death with a pen still in his hand. In front of him lay a logbook, detailing a voyage that had taken a deadly turn. But the crew wasn't alone. Throughout the ship, every sailor on board had suffered the same fate. Frozen where they stood, some still clutching ropes or tools, trapped in a deadly embrace with the Arctic cold. One of the most significant discoveries aboard the Octavius was the captain's logbook, frozen along with him at his desk. Logbooks, often considered the heart of any ship's documentation, were meticulously maintained by captains during long voyages. These documents held key information about a ship's course, weather conditions, sightings, and daily life aboard. In times of disaster, they became invaluable in helping us piece together the fate of lost vessels. For the Octavius, the logbook offered a chilling glimpse into its doomed journey. While damaged by the cold and water, the logs still told the story of their last days, providing critical clues about how long they had been trapped in the ice. But much of it remains a mystery, as some pages were beyond saving. What remains raises more questions than it answers, deepening the mystery surrounding the ship's voyage and its ill-fated end. The Northwest Passage, the fateful route that the Octavius attempted to navigate, was both a dream and a death sentence for many sailors. Spanning the Arctic between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, this treacherous route was sought after for centuries as a possible shortcut for global trade. But it came with incredible risks. Ice flows, freezing temperatures, and unpredictable weather patterns made it nearly impossible to survive. By the time the Octavius attempted the passage, it was considered a deadly gamble, with explorers like Sir John Franklin having already disappeared in its frozen waters. Yet, the allure of finding a quicker route drove many to try, even if it meant never returning. The cold grip of the Arctic claimed ship after ship, leaving behind tales of frostbitten sailors and frozen wrecks. The Octavius had originally set sail in 1761 from England, bound for China, laden with goods for trade. By all accounts, the voyage had been uneventful, until the crew made a fateful decision on their return journey. Instead of retracing their steps, the captain chose to take a dangerous gamble. They would attempt to navigate the treacherous Northwest Passage, a shortcut through the Arctic that had claimed the lives of many brave sailors before them. It was a decision that would seal their fate. The crew of the Octavius sailed into the icy waters, only to be trapped in the unforgiving grip of the Arctic ice. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months as the ice pressed in around the ship, making escape impossible. Slowly, the freezing temperatures took their toll, and one by one, the crew succumbed to the cold, frozen where they stood. Sailing in the 18th century was not for the faint of heart. Life on board a ship like the Octavius was filled with hardships: rough seas, scurvy, malnutrition, and the ever-present threat of disease. The Arctic waters, however, posed a new level of danger. The icy cold, which could freeze a man to death in hours, required sailors to be constantly vigilant. During long voyages, boredom, exhaustion, and fear often set in. Ships were cramped and damp, with little space for personal belongings. But it was the isolation that drove many sailors to the brink. For the crew of the Octavius, trapped in ice for over a decade, the silence and the cold must have been unbearable. And yet, for all the challenges they faced, no one could have predicted the fate that awaited them. But how had the Octavius been found so far from the Arctic Circle, drifting near Greenland? According to the ship's log, the Octavius had remained trapped in ice for over a decade. When the ice finally released its hold, the ship had been left to drift aimlessly for nearly 14 years, carried by the currents across the Arctic waters and down to the North Atlantic, where the Herald had stumbled upon its frozen crew. The discovery of the Octavius sparked endless speculation. How had the ship managed to survive for so long in such harsh conditions? And how had the crew's bodies remained so perfectly preserved, as if frozen in time? Some suggest the Arctic's freezing temperatures created a natural cryogenic effect, preserving the crew and their ship in an icy tomb. Others believe there's more to the tale of the Octavius than just a tragic accident. Could the ship have been cursed, its fate sealed by the dangerous waters it sailed through? Or was there something even more sinister at play, a force that doomed the crew from the start? Over the years, many theories have been proposed to explain the phenomenon of ghost ships. Some suggest that these ships were simply abandoned by their crews after a major disaster, such as a storm or disease outbreak. Others believe that ships like the Octavius were cursed from the start, destined to meet a tragic end. In the case of the Octavius, some have theorized that the crew may have been struck down by a sudden illness, leaving them unable to navigate the ship to safety. Others propose that the extreme cold of the Arctic caused the ship's crew to succumb to hypothermia, freezing to death in the positions where they stood. Whatever the reason, the sight of a ship with its crew frozen in place is one that has haunted the imaginations of sailors and historians alike. The sea has always been a place of mystery and danger, and with it comes a long history of maritime superstitions. For sailors in the 18th century, the ocean was a place where the natural and supernatural often intertwined. It was common for sailors to believe in omens. An albatross flying overhead was considered a good sign, while seeing a black cat was an ill omen. But ghost ships like the Octavius were feared above all. To come across an abandoned vessel adrift at sea was seen as a harbinger of doom. These ghost ships were said to carry a curse. Any crew who came in contact with them would be doomed to suffer the same fate. It's possible that when the crew of the Herald boarded the Octavius, they too felt the icy grip of fear that comes from encountering the unknown. The Octavius was more than just a physical presence. It was a symbol of the dangers that lurked beneath the surface of the sea, dangers that no sailor could fully understand or escape. The story of the Octavius lives on, passed down through generations of sailors and storytellers alike. Some believe that the ship still haunts the waters of the North Atlantic, appearing out of the fog as a ghostly reminder of the dangers that lurk in the frozen seas. Despite the passage of time, the mystery of the Octavius remains unsolved. The ship's logbook, which contained the last entries of the doomed crew, was said to be damaged by the cold and water, leaving behind only fragments of their final days. To this day, no one knows the exact location where the Octavius sank, or if it still drifts silently through the icy waters. As the crew of the Herald left the Octavius behind, the the ship once again became a ghostly figure on the seas. But unlike many ghost ships, the Octavius has never been seen again. Its final resting place remains one of the great mysteries of the Arctic. In recent decades, efforts have been made to find the wreckage of ships lost to the Arctic. Technological advancements, such as sonar and underwater drones, have allowed modern explorers to search areas once deemed inaccessible. Yet, despite these efforts, no trace of the Octavius has been found. Could it still be out there, frozen beneath layers of ice, waiting to be discovered? Or has the ship finally succumbed to the ravages of time, lost forever to the cold, unforgiving Arctic waters? Perhaps, in time, technology will reveal the final resting place of this ghost ship, bringing closure to a mystery that has haunted sailors for centuries. Life at sea wasn't just physically demanding. It took a tremendous psychological toll on sailors, particularly on long voyages. Isolation, combined with the constant threat of danger, could lead to extreme mental strain. For the crew of the Octavius, the months they spent trapped in the ice likely left them vulnerable to fear, despair, and even hallucinations. Sailors were often subject to cabin fever, a term used to describe the mental strain caused by isolation and being confined to close quarters for long periods of time. The endless cold and the desolation of the Arctic would have only heightened these feelings of isolation. Some sailors on long voyages even reported hearing voices or seeing things that weren't there, a phenomenon known as the call of the void, a psychological response to extreme loneliness. As the days turned to weeks, and the weeks to months, it's easy to imagine the crew of the Octavius slowly losing hope, their mental states deteriorating as the ice refused to release its grip on the ship. By the time they succumbed to the cold, they may have already been lost in more ways than one. In the 18th century, Arctic exploration was one of the most dangerous endeavours a sailor could undertake. The search for the Northwest Passage was a particularly deadly pursuit. Many who set out never returned, their ships swallowed by the ice, their fates unknown. Yet, for many, the lure of the Arctic was irresistible. The Octavius was one of many ships that disappeared in the frozen north, but it wouldn't be the last. Over the next century, countless expeditions would attempt to navigate the treacherous waters of the Arctic, often with tragic results. The story of Sir John Franklin, who disappeared along with his crew in the mid-1800s while searching for the Northwest Passage, bears a striking resemblance to the fate of the Octavius. The Arctic was not just a physical barrier. It was a place where human endurance and resilience were tested to their limits. Those who survived the frozen wasteland often returned with stories of unimaginable hardship, while those who didn't became part of the legend, lost forever to the ice. The sea has always been a place of wonder and fear. It holds its secrets tightly, revealing them only to those brave or foolish enough to seek them out. The Octavius is one of those secrets, a ship trapped in time, a tragic reminder of the dangers of the sea. But it's also a symbol of the unknown, of the things that lie just beyond our reach, waiting to be uncovered. As we continue to explore the depths of our oceans and the frozen wilderness of the Arctic, we are constantly reminded of the power of nature and of the stories, both real and imagined, that have shaped our understanding of the world. The story of the Octavius may never have a definitive ending, but it will always remain a part of maritime history, a ghostly figure drifting through the fog of time. To this day, no one knows what happened to the Octavius after it was found by the crew of the Herald. The ship was left to drift once more, disappearing into the fog, never to be seen again. Some believe it may still be out there, frozen in the ice, waiting to be discovered. As technology advances, some modern explorers have begun searching for the wrecks of lost ships in the Arctic. Using sonar and other tools, they've uncovered the remains of ships that were thought to be lost forever. Could the Octavius be next? Could the ship be lying beneath the ice, perfectly preserved, a ghostly relic of a time when the sea was a place of unimaginable danger? If the Octavius were found today, it would answer many of the questions that have haunted sailors for centuries. But until that day comes, the Octavius remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the sea. What do you think really happened to the Octavius? Was it simply a tragic end to a daring voyage, or was there something more supernatural at play? Let us know your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this chilling ghost story. If you've enjoyed this journey into the icy depths of the Octavius, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Facts Intrigue. There are more mysterious tales waiting to be uncovered, and you won't want to miss a single one. The tale of the Octavius is more than just a ghost story. It's a reminder of the power and unpredictability of the sea. The ocean holds many secrets, and for every ship that makes it home, there are those that vanish into the depths, leaving behind only questions and whispers of their fate. Thank you for joining us on this eerie voyage. Until next time, stay curious, stay adventurous, and remember, the sea never forgets.